Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Angus Wallace. I'm chair of the UK Digital Health and Care, and I'm delighted to have you join us for this webinar, which is the second webinar of a series of 4. We have developed these webinars to highlight the master's degrees in digital health and informatics in the UK that are available from our universities. And today we're featuring the Universities of Central Lancashire and Imperial College London. Our chair is Dr. Anita Fung, who is a GP from London, a very talented GP from London, who has moved into the digital health field. And she is going to chair throughout. I'll come in at the end, but Anita, over to you.
Thank you so much, Angus, and thank you for the introduction. Talented, I'm not sure. Hardworking, I can vouch for that. So my name's Anita. I'm a portfolio GP, and as Angus has mentioned, I have been exploring digital health as a career. I'm actually currently in the process of applying for a digital transformation role at kind of a local level, and participating in these webinars has been quite useful to really understand what courses are out there, what skills I can learn, and how I can use that moving forward. So today we have a good representation of course leads and students on courses, postgraduate courses. And I'd like us to just do a round of quick introductions before we kind of talk a bit more about the courses that they have to offer and ask our students what their experiences were, if there's anything that they would have done differently, and moving forward, how they hope to use their learning, essentially. So if we start off with, who wants to go first? Silence. Okay.
Sure,
Should we
I'll
go?
first.
Okay, Juliet, great. So Juliet, would you like to introduce yourself, give us a bit of background about what you do?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Anita. So I'm Juliet van Wessem, and I work at IGHI, which is the Institute of Global Health Innovation, and we run the postgraduate diploma in digital health leadership for the NHS Digital Academy. And there's an option there also to complete an MSc once that program is complete. And I am joined today by Penny, who was in our most recent cohort and finished the program last August, I believe.
Excellent. And Penny, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. It's great pleasure to be here today. I am a member of the UKDHC committee, and I've also done the course that Juliet mentioned. I'm delighted to have done it, and I'm sure we'll speak about that later. I'm the Chief Clinical Information Officer and a Deputy Chief Medical Officer at University Hospitals Coventry in Warwickshire, and I'm a consultant clinical oncologist by background.
Excellent, thank you very much. So those are our representatives from Imperial College London. On the other side, we have representatives from the University of Central Lancashire. So Jane, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, so I'm Jane Fitzgerald and I'm the course leader for the MSc Health Informatics at UCLan. Took over officially last year and I'm busy going through what we provide and changing it and expanding it, and it's very, very exciting times. Excellent.
And who have you got on your team?
So we have Fiona, who graduated with an MSc with distinction. I know. last July, yes, it's Fiona. Introduce yourself.
Thanks very much. So my name is Fiona Mills. I'm Deputy Chief Nurse Informatics Officer at Oxford University Hospitals, and I'm a paediatric nurse by background. And as Jane said, I completed the Masters at University of Central Lancashire last summer.
Excellent. And how does it feel to complete, to hit such a big milestone?
It felt absolutely amazing, I have to say. It was very exciting. We had an amazing graduation ceremony and I had lots of fun. So it was a lovely end to the whole programme, but it felt amazing to complete everything. It was great.
Excellent. And Penny, did you have a graduation recently?
We did have a graduation, yes.
Yeah, because one of my friends, he was on, I think, the same course as you, and he graduated recently, and it's at the Royal Albert Hall, isn't it? So it was like a wonderful affair.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, Juliet, you kind of volunteered to go first. So would you like to tell us a bit more about the Digital Health Leadership Program that you offer at Imperial College London?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to share some slides here, just because that helps me
Okay, no problem.
not forget what I promised to talk about. Can you see that?
Yep, looks great to me.
Oh, good, brilliant. Right, so as I said, here at IGHI at Imperial College London, we run the Digital Health Leadership Program, which is part of the NHS Digital Academy. So we're we can still call ourselves the flagship program of the NHS Digital Academy. It started off that our program was the same as the NHS Digital Academy, but NHS England have since decided to host a kind of wider range of digital programs under that same umbrella. So we're the Digital Health Leadership Program, part of the NHS Digital Academy. Let me see if that's working. So, there we go. So here's a little bit about the Institute of Global Health Innovation. It's one of the 7 Global Challenge institutions that are hosted within Imperial College. And I'm assuming that these slides will be shared. I've got a little video there which shows a lot of the other work that IGHI does and kind of how it fits with the aims of the program. And so within IGHI, there's these centers of excellence. And so some of those directly link to some of the work that we do within our digital leadership program. So very well connected kind of across the system and particularly in academia and research. Our academic director is Professor Aradarzi, and that's partly why our celebration with the end of the cohort happens at the House of Lords. So very fancy. When you finish your postgraduate diploma, you get your celebration at the House of Lords. And then when you do the MSc, it's at the Royal Albert Hall along with all the other MSc graduates. So here's a very brief history of the program. So I'm sure everybody knows about the 2017 WACTR review, Making IT Work. And one of the recommendations from this study was that we need to invest in the workforce tasked with the digital transformation for the NHS. And what that meant was basically bringing the CIOs and the CCIOs together to bring both the technical and the clinical perspective on digital transformation into one room and really take a moment to reflect to see what needed to happen to drive that change. So there was a big tender process. Imperial and Harvard Medical School at the time and the University of Edinburgh won that bid as a consortium. So that was 2 cohorts, then COVID hit. We had a bit of a virtual hybrid sort of situation for a couple of years. And then since the 5th cohort, the program's been delivered solely by Imperial College London. And we're currently delivering cohort 6 and applications for cohort 7 have just closed actually. So that's a very brief timeline. So what do we try to do? So I think we all know digital leadership is critical to the future of the NHS. If we want to do that, sure, we need to invest in the infrastructure, but we also very importantly need to invest in the people. And so what we need to do is equip both clinical and non-clinical staff for success so that they know what to do and what language to speak when they drive these types of projects. Here's a little bit about participants. So we actually don't have a fully open application process. The recruitment is led entirely by NHS England. So participants need to apply to them, usually in spring. And they need to be directly employed by an NHS organization or as a member of the NHS workforce in England specifically. And then there's a little bit of information there about the types of roles these people need to hold. I think in the first couple of cohorts, it was very much CIOs and CCIOs and all the types of CXIOs that were available at the time. Right now, I think it's a bit broader, and certainly in cohorts of 5 and 6, we get allied health professionals and a much broader digital midwives, and it's kind of a wider group of the digital workforce, but still in leadership positions and with responsibility for driving projects. That's kind of part of the aim of the program, that we teach you the skills and the theory to back up the kind of projects that you're already managing at work. Then here is a lovely slide of our roadmap. So these are the 8 modules that students undertake when they come and do the program. We start with a bit of onboarding. Just to mention, it's a blended program, but all the modules actually are delivered fully online. And the only time we come together in person is at these residential teaching days, which we call leadership forums. One happens at the beginning, one happens in the middle, and one happens kind of towards the end. And that's where everybody comes together. And we get keynotes, we get workshops, we do some case studies. But most importantly, it's kind of where those networking opportunities happen and people really start to form that network. We get 100 students every year. So at the moment we have about 600 people who've gone or are going through that program right now. And I think that's a really key aspect of the sort of benefit and the value when you do this program. You also join that really powerful group of digital leaders within the NHS that have done this program and speak the language kind of thing. So here are a few of the benefits. So it's a unique combination of informatics and leadership. I think that's quite different from some of the other informatics programs that are out there, and also different from the sort of management and leadership programs that are out there. We have lots of expertise within IGHI, so clinical, managerial, technical, and policy expertise. We also run an MSc in health policy. We have lots of partnerships with kind of key stakeholders, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more. There is a real focus in the program to bring the theory, but then take it to application. So have a framework in user-centered design, but then, okay, what do you actually do on the ground? We'll have people coming to talk to the students and case studies. We have a group of practitioners who are working within the NHS. And then a very key other aspect of the course are the peer support groups. So everybody on the course is assigned a group of sort of 6 to 8 students, and that becomes their kind of study group. And I think Penny will talk about that a little bit too. And then finally, once you have done the PGDIP, which is fully funded by NHS England, you have the option to progress to an MSc, and that is, the tuition is prorated, so it's about 7K, I think, at the moment. And then finally, we've recently completed a kind of process where we've aligned our learning outcomes with the framework that FedIP have for these practitioners. And so everybody who's done the postgraduate diploma can be registered as an advanced practitioner. So here is, I have to apologize, it's a little bit of an old slide. You can see that Health Education England and NHS Digital are still there now. Obviously, they've all merged. But I ran out of time to update the slides. Anyway, this slide just gives you a kind of idea of the companies, health system stakeholders, and sort of core stakeholders that are part of the delivery of the program. And then I have a couple of testimonials from current students. Just, we have Penny here with us who completed the program last year. But I think it's also important to show that the current students who are basically going through the theory and then doing their assessments with the sort of new toolkit, if you like. And so what they're saying is that they're really starting to understand kind of what's involved in managing digital transformation within their trust, the kind of networks that they're building, the leadership component. And what everybody always says is that the course is giving them a kind of badge of authority to make decisions and have the seat at the table and know, sort of by talking to these 100 other people that are on the course with you, actually everybody's going through the same thing. You do know the answers, you do have the knowledge, and kind of, having the academic qualification on top of that gives you the authority to make decisions and really, kind of inform the board. If you're not on the board yourself, kind of make sure that these things are happening. And then my final slide has a bit of information about the impact and the alumni community. So we've got over 600 alumni in this group. You can see that a load of people, after they've completed the program, have actually quickly progressed their own careers. But I think more importantly is the impact that the program and the sort of growing group of alumni has on organizations and the NHS as a whole, which is a bit more difficult to show in a graph, but just a couple of kind of job changes that have happened as a result of the program. And then I wanted to hand over to Penny, who's in cohort 5, so that she can share about what it was like for her as a student and maybe now as an alum.
Thank you so much, Juliet. And I don't have any slides, but I'm very happy to talk about the course and, the impact that it has had in my practice as a CCIO, but also the overall benefits of the course, really. And I will say probably I will summarize in 3 points. The one is, yes, it's a theoretical course, but it's actually prepare you for practice, which I think that's very unique. So how can you apply what you learned? We did that through case studies, as Juliet mentioned, and I actually applied. The best module for me was the design thinking that Juliet mentioned, and I actually applied what I've learned in a process mining work and AI work I did with my organization, and how to build that design thinking into everyday processes, and how to bring people together and drive that engagement. You set up the vision, the problem, and then you narrow down to what's important, and then you come up with solutions that you test. So I think that is one of the benefits that I really got a lot out of. The second aspect is the leadership. And this is a course about digital transformation, but it's about leadership as well. And the leadership skills that you gain through the course are transferable. You know, people may be working in digital now, but not later, but that doesn't mean that the course is not relevant. And the strategic component, as well as the implementation of the strategy that it gives you an outline of, are really, really important skills when you're working in anywhere in the NHS or private. And the third aspect is the network and the people, the meetings that we had online, but also through the platform and the face-to-face engagement events. They were all really blended really well. And the cohort I was with consists of CCIOs, CNIOs, and we are still meeting. We still got that network going. So I can tap into their support when now we are working through our EPR, and they can do the same, which I think is really important. We cannot underestimate the importance of coming together and sharing knowledge, sharing skills. So these are the 3 aspects that I found very important. And lastly, it's the system perspective that it gives you as well. So it's leadership, not just as an individual, personal, or as an organization, but it gives you that more broader aspect of digital transformation and working as a system.
Thank you very much, Juliet, and thank you very much, Penny. You're making my life difficult by answering all the questions that I had under my sleeve in your presentation and kind of summarizing your learning points thus far. I guess what I wanted to ask is, it's great to see NHS England investing back into the workforce and actually developing skills we would find really difficult to develop, like on the job. Can I ask again, I may have missed it, is the course part-time, full-time, or is it kind of like intensive bursts throughout the year? I wasn't quite sure how it works.
So it's advertised as a part-time 1-year postgraduate diploma. So anyone who works in academia will know that is quite difficult to do, because there are, let me just get that right, 90 ECTS. And so the way that the sort of program specification has been designed is that actually a lot of the learning happens at work. And so the assessments are designed so that you get the theory, but then the assignment that you're doing is linked to something that you're already doing at work. And so that's how we can justify that some of the learning happens whilst you are working. So to give you an example, I think in one of the modules, you write a strategy document for a project that you want to pitch to get some funding for. And so that is something that you need to then use for something that you actually would like to get some funding for. So you're working on the page, a business plan, and then you draft that with a vision to actually send that to your board. And so we can say that, sure, you're doing learning as part of the program, but also you're doing that whilst you are just doing your day job. So yeah, the idea is that it's about 10 to 15 hours on top of work. So it's still it's a pretty big commitment. And I think that's probably the biggest piece of feedback that we get, that it's a lot for people, especially in clinical roles, to do alongside their jobs.
But actually, I think the way you mentioned about the course being designed, it's actually like hitting 2 birds with 1 stone, because in their role, they're going to have to do that work anyway, but they can use that piece of work to be assessed. So I feel like that's a win-win because they're going to have to put the time in anyway.
Yeah. No, and it's designed like that. I think there was, there was obviously a lot of work that went into this, the design of the program and the flow of the modules before we started doing this. And in the early years, we asked for students to bring a single digital transformation project and look at that from different angles. So we start with a process map, and then we do the strategy, and then we do in user-centered design, we do something about like changing a service and developing a presentation. And then we asked to look at it from a data point of view and talk about how we can use maybe AI and machine learning to find efficiencies. And so those were also different theoretical angles to the same problem. What we then discovered is that not everybody had this single piece of work to do over the course of exactly 1 year. And so now we allow students to use different projects, because quite often people are involved in different things at different times. And that works a bit better because some projects are more suited to look at from a design point of view, and some are more sort of data specific. So yeah, I think it's a really, obviously I'm not an academic, I didn't design the actual program, but it's really clever how it does a kind of part apprenticeship, part academic course, and leaves you with really tangible tools and kind of ways to immediately implement what you're learning at work.
Yeah. And so last week we had, I think, university, their course was a digital course, but completely in person with, the digital health leadership program. Most of it is kind of remote in their own time. Is there any kind of like lectures or seminars or webinars that are digital, in person?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 8 modules at the moment, and every module takes place over a period of about 6 weeks. And in each of those modules, you will have at least 3 webinars. So we have our module leads, but we also have a whole team of teaching fellows and other collaborators that will be delivering those. So that's all. The 6 weeks are online. There'll be like 3 sort of 1 to 2 hour webinars. And then at 3 points in the year, we come together face to face. So those will be either 2 or 1 day residential learning sort of days. Actually, when Penny did it, we still also did the virtual residentials, which was like endless Zoom. And I made an executive decision last year that we would never spend another full day on Zoom. So now we do.
Great. It's important. I think there's so much that we should be doing online, but actually what part of it is working collaboratively together, having that human to human connection. And I think that's really important. And probably I support that. I think that's a great move.
Yeah, no, I think Penny did like 4 whole days on Zoom, I think.
But I really welcomed the face-to-face eventually when they happened.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody wants to do that anymore. But yeah, in the first couple of cohorts, I think there were 5 or 6 points that we came together face-to-face. Then COVID hit, so everything became fully remote. And then now I think we've got really the right balance of online and face-to-face. It's really important to come together at the beginning. It's really important to come together at the end. And I'm quite happy that we now also found a way to do it again, sort of in the middle of the program. Our participants are based all over the country. So we do actually do these residentials not in London. The Imperial College is based in London, obviously, but we do them in Durham, in York, in Birmingham, Manchester. So we usually just find locations that are easy to get to. And this year we're doing York and Birmingham.
Nice.
But we've been in lots of other places too.
Good. And so I did a bit of research before this webinar, and I went on your website to just have a look and just to see what information is out there about the course. And it says here the entry requirements. It says to be a chief information officer. Okay, fine. A chief clinical information officer, so CCIO, or an aspiring digital leader. So I latched onto that because I'm not a CIO or a CCIO. So I was like, aspiring digital leader in NHS or social care. What constitutes an aspiring digital leader? Could I be considered as an aspiring digital leader?
I mean, from the 25 minutes that I've met you, Anita, I think you have a really good attitude and you clearly are very interested in digital. So why not? I mean, get your application in for cohort 8. But I think the vision has always been to have a kind of 50% clinical, non-clinical people. And then about a third of those people would be aspiring or kind of the next generation of leaders. And it's very difficult, obviously, to put a measure on that. But yeah, we have quite an extensive application process. But the idea has always been the kind of the leaders of today to be passing on, you know, the generation that's coming next. And I think that's been really successful. Like we've had a couple of cohorts where the diversity of jobs and backgrounds and kind of levels of seniority have been a lot broader. It does mean that it becomes quite difficult to teach the same curriculum to a whole group of, you know, very senior doctors and, you know, who obviously have a lot of experience in academia. And then there's people who've kind of made it up through the ranks into for example, we have a whole group of digital nurses, digital midwives, and they're obviously going to be leading those transformations, but they have come from quite a different academic trajectory. But I feel quite proud that we've been able to support all of them through the program. Like our dropout rate's almost zero, like everybody completes pretty much. Yeah, Penny, anything to add on that, like from your experience?
Well, I think I had quite a diverse group actually, and I think I gained a lot of that. I also had a colleague who he doesn't have a CCIO, CNIO position, but he's an entrepreneur. So he's created his own startup, you know, and he works as a doctor, and he was absolutely amazing. He definitely brought a different perspective than the perspective that I have as a clinician in the NHS, and I think having that diversity is extremely important.
Thank you. And Penny, I did have a question for you, because you mentioned that one of the benefits of being on the program is the networking opportunities, kind of meeting up with everyone. Is there any kind of formal mentoring element or shadowing element as part of the program?
So obviously, as we're broken into groups of 5 people each, so we almost acted as buddies, one with the other. And I've got a WhatsApp group with the group still, and we are still communicating, and we are still helping and supporting each other. So I would say that this was done peer to peer, which I think is important. I absolutely love that.
Thank you. And you know, we like to have a balanced view on things. Could you share with us maybe some of the kind of high points or the low points of the course?
That's for me, yes?
Yeah, that's for you.
Well, a couple of my colleagues said there's a lot to write in this course. I actually like writing, okay? I've written books, so I love that component. And the reflection for each module that you do, which is relevant to your practice, actually helped me a lot. It's very different to put it in writing and very different to just think about it. So for some people, you know, this was quite a lot. For me, it was just perfect. I would say, you know, the platform engagement was very good. It was very easy to use. And, you know, you had the option, obviously, to work at your own pace. And, you know, for me, it worked really well. But I also welcome the residentials, which you come together and you just embed what you have done over the last few weeks and make those long-lasting connections, which I valued the most. But I thought it was the balance of the modules. You know, there were the technical ones, there were the leadership ones, there were the strategic ones, and it flowed quite well for me.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask, can you give us an example of how you applied your learning? Because that, you know, that's what we've been talking about kind of equipping the workforce with skills that they can apply. So how has it helped you in your role?
Sure. I think I mentioned before about the user-centered design. I think that's one of the modules that I have really applied, every principle of it. When we ran a project with process mining, with IBM in the trust, and just working with that team and understanding how they approach and working together and using the principles of the module, I think that really embedded that learning for me, and I can now replicate that in every other project that requires the same approach. And I actually love that approach. And I know I know colleagues who have written a lot about it, and I now really value the importance of user-centered design.
Thank you. Thank you. I know I can feel UC Land getting a bit restless, like, when is my turn coming? It's coming. One last final question to you, Penny. if you were to give one piece of advice to our, digital health colleagues, to our aspiring digital health leaders, what would that one piece of advice be besides doing the course?
It would be brave and don't be afraid to actually go for it for such a course. You don't need to be a CXIO and you don't need to be a techie. I am not a techie, and this is not about going into details of every technology. It's about leadership at the end of the day. It's about change and transformation. So go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go for that digital transformation role. Whether I get it or not is a different story.
That was for
Absolutely
you.
different story. All right, Jane, I can see you kind of guessing a bit like this. Over to you.
Right, so now you're gonna want to do our MSc as well in health informatics.
Is that right?
Right, let me see if I can find it. There we go. Welcome to Health Informatics at UCLan. My name is Jane Fitzgerald, as I introduced earlier. I'm the course leader and I took over last year. Formally, I'd sort of done a little bit of a handover with one of the guys who was responsible for setting up health informatics right back at the beginning. And I'm sure those of you who work in academia know that people don't like handing over their babies. So it was quite an interesting experience. So it was established in 1999 by Alan Gillies, John Howard and Beverly Ellis. Some of you may know some or all of those people. They're all, Alan Gillies still does a lot in health informatics, but John and Bev are now fully retired. It's entirely distance learning. It's part-time, but with daily support. So Monday to Friday, there are tutors available, and you simply make an appointment, as I'm sure Fiona will tell you. We can also make ourselves available for evening appointments because we literally have students from all over the world. And all of our students work full-time. We have admissions in September and in January, with most modules, not all, but most modules, and I'll explain that in a little while, being available in both semesters 1 and 2. So students really can choose the pathway through the health informatics modules that they want to take. All of our module leads have backgrounds in managing clinical data from a range of perspectives. So mine is in both mental health and clinical trials. We were very much, there are a number of frameworks, as has been alluded to, but there are a number of frameworks that have been around that we've aligned with. What we've just moved to now is an alignment with tech skills. So they have, we've actually helped them work with them on their standards for health informatics, but it means that all the people who might be interested in and have a stake in health informatics have fed into that to develop the standards that they need to know the students coming out have met. And all of our assignments are workplace based. So I know Juliet said before that it's really important that we do a lot of the theory stuff, but then the student takes that back into their workplace. So all of the assignments are based around what they do in work. And we've had a number of students who've actually taken some of the work that they've done, and especially their dissertations, and actually gone and done, big transformations in their workplaces. So we have a number of different awards. We have a university certificate, which is 1 semester and it's 1 module, which is the one which is more about the what the data is and how data moves around. So it's about relationships and about data entities. We have a PG certificate in 1 year, which is 3 modules, postgraduate skills. Oops, sorry, just knocked something else off. Postgraduate skills, the information and IT concepts again, and then 1 other, and that's usually the health informatics module, which is about the context and the setting, how we got to where we are with health informatics and where we need to go. Oh. There we go. The diploma obviously takes 2 years. It's the PG certificate, and then you build on that, and it's an additional 3 modules chosen from a number. And then the MSc, so that's the 3rd year, and it's a full year of dissertation. So that's a triple module. But all of our modules are also available as on the CPD basis. This is taking its time. Right, so core modules, we have the postgraduate study skills, information and IT concepts, which I say is that underpinning theory of data. We do research, a research module. We're just changing from having 2 core research modules, which are quantitative and qualitative, to 1 core research module, and then the others become option modules if students want to develop their skills in those particular areas. And obviously they have to do the dissertation if they want to complete the MSc. So we have a number of option modules, quantitative, qualitative. We've also now added in governance, and that's going to be available as from January. We have population health, so big data, once again also available from January. Quality assurance, which is available immediately, and then the knowledge-based management and leadership. So you can see from this that students can literally pick their way through the modules that they want, depending on where they are and where they want to get to. And that was the purpose of this, really. We are changing the way that we do all of the modules at UCLan, really, and making them more of a pick and mix, sounds dreadful, but more available in a range of different options for students to use. We're also going to be adding in statistics in healthcare, so there's actually going to be a designated statistics module that is in development as we speak. I'd like to think it's going to be available in January, but I'm not entirely sure of that. So our students, the only requirement for our students is that they work in a health-related environment. And picking up on something that Juliet said, it's the enthusiasm, it's the interest, it's that desire to learn more about the health informatics environment that's far more important than what they might have done before. So we have a whole range of different people that currently undertaking the MSc, literally digital nurses, midwives, consultants, pharmacists. We just had somebody complete the PG cert recently who's a consultant psychiatrist but works specifically in the mental health tribunal setting. So that was really interesting to work with him and his attitude towards health data, which was fascinating. We've had radiographers, clinical trials administrators. We've got somebody at the moment, clinical trials software developer, her dissertation is specifically looking at how you can map clinical trials data with the NHS data to make it work more seamlessly. It's been very interesting. Hospital managers, clinical information officers, and health informaticians from all sorts of areas. So we've got a young man at the moment who works in medical records in South Africa, and he's busy working with us to complete his MSc. So the cost, yes, so currently it's £1,000 per module. So there are 9 modules to complete the MSc. That's going to cost £9,000. It's going up by £100, I believe, per module as from September. So as I've said before, students can sign up for an individual module or for any of the awards. And if they sign up for an individual module, then they get, their rate is set at that rate at which they signed up. So if they sign up now and they get £1,000 per module, that's what they will be paying throughout the whole MSc. So prior learning can be applied. So they might come to us and say, I've done this, and we will look at it and see if the learning outcomes from that award can be applied to what they need to have for us. So the prior learning can be APAL'd. So modules taken individually, you don't have to sign up to do a full award immediately. You can do a module and then you can do another module and you can add it and so that it becomes the full award. So what I also wanted to say to you is we also have within the university an MSc in digital health, and we are currently working together. These are the what they are currently offering. And we're working together to see how we can bring digital health and health informatics together. Perhaps with the idea, although I have to say the people in our quality assurance department are having a nervous breakdown, but perhaps with the idea of students being able to pick from both courses, and then depending on the majority of the modules that they've picked will define the award that they actually get. So we're sort of working on that, but at the moment we have an entirely separate provision for digital health. Oh, I forgot about the augmented reality as well at the bottom there. Right, I'm going to hand over to Fiona.
Thank you very much.
I'll move the slide. So you just tell me what to do.
You can put them all up for this one, please. So the reason that I selected this course is because there are only a handful of universities offering this type of course, and for me it was specifically around a course that's recommended for digital nursing and those wishing to progress academically. Also, one of the senior people in my organisation had completed the masters at Central Lancashire, so they recommended it to me as a course to do. I was really excited about the course content. We started off, as Jane has said, with the postgraduate skills, which was a really good way to get back into the swing of things. And then there were things that were more familiar to me. So we did a whole lot of work around EPR, the history of EPR and digital in the NHS. But we also did things that I've never done before, which was really exciting. So we did some new skills on learning how to develop an application to solve a real world problem in healthcare. And although I found it quite challenging, it was really interesting and it felt really good to actually achieve that. We did lots of work on data and clinical coding, which is obviously really, really useful for my job in the real world. For me, distance and online learning was an absolute must. I have a full-time job. I had, at the time, a young family, and I needed something that could fit in around all of that. It was really perfect for me because it meant I could work on things each week. I could take a study day when I needed to work on my weekly content, and that's how the course was laid out at the time. So we had a set sort of core of work to do each week as we went along, and obviously that accumulated. You had assignments as you went along, but it was really very flexible. Obviously there were deadlines for the assignments, but the work that you could do over each module was very flexible. My colleague is currently doing the course actually, and she's been able to sort of juggle things around so that one term she's doing one module, one term she's doing two modules, and there is a lot of flexibility. There are some modules you have to do in a certain sequential order because of the nature of the modules, but there is flexibility around that, and obviously because it's part-time you can stretch it out a little bit longer as well, which is great. As Jane also mentioned earlier, we had support from our tutors, so we each got our own tutor in a very sort of traditional academic style, but we could book an appointment with them to go through what was going on with our course at the time and the modules. But often we'd just drop them a message on Teams and they'd come back to us almost immediately, and that was a really helpful sort of way to do things, because if, you know, when I was struggling with one of the modules, I certainly found that flexibility, and you know, I probably bothered John about 20 times in one day with one of my modules, and he got back to me every time, which was fantastic for me. And although we didn't meet our fellow students doing the course, we did have online Teams channels, chats for each of the modules, so we could engage with other people. We did have one of the modules that we did meet with other people because we went through the structure of that module as a bigger group, but the chat function and everything else was really, really helpful. So that's what I tapped into, and it was always available for people to do that if they wanted to. I think one of the issues around that is because it's a course for people across the globe, it makes it quite challenging to, you know, do an actual session because time zones are different, and it's a bit of a challenge in that respect. So that's why that works so well for us. And I would say this course was very different from my first degree. My first degree was obviously in nursing, paediatric nursing, quite some time ago. And with this course, so that was very, very structured. It was very clear. There were clear academic points we had to achieve, and for our nursing registration we had to achieve. But with this, everything was really self-directed. It required real commitment and dedication to complete all of the elements. And I certainly don't think I would have had that ability when I was 18 to be that self-directed. So that's a skill I've learned through my life. And in terms of the content, it's very different from my first degree. I do think it was more challenging, particularly the research modules, and the dissertation module was a lot bigger than my original degree. Jane asked me to talk about highs and lows. So I would have to say my lowest point was one of the research modules. As you saw earlier, there's a qualitative and a quantitative research module, and qualitative really really I found very challenging. We were very, very busy at work at the time, as everyone was, as everyone always is in the NHS, but I found it quite hard to really engage with that module. So I had to get additional support from my tutor for that one, and I really struggled to get back on track, but I did, and obviously managed to pass. But it was really good to have that support available to me. And in terms of my highest point, I would say handing in my dissertation was my highest point, because that sense of massive achievement to complete that huge piece of work was just something else entirely. And obviously passing it was a very exciting thing to get that dissertation under the belt. And then actually, I touched on it earlier, but finally meeting my other students when we did our graduation ceremony was really wonderful. And actually I knew some of them from outside of the university as well. So it was really great to see people, and we all managed to celebrate together, which was really nice. In terms of what's next, so do I think this will influence my future career? I would say it already has. Completing the course has given me a lot more knowledge and understanding of lots of processes, as I've mentioned before, and I'll be able to use them within my organisation. So for my dissertation topic, I've managed to turn that now into a policy at work, and also I'm presenting it, and we're looking at publishing it, so which is very exciting. And I think that's given me confidence and developed me within my profession, but changed my perspective on the knowledge and skills, because I have much better understanding of lots of aspects of health informatics, not just my sort of sphere of expertise coming at this from a nursing side. And actually, having done this, I'd even consider moving further into health informatics now than I would ever thought possible before. So it's given me a lot more knowledge and skills in that side of things. So that's me.
Thank you, Fiona. Yes, you've said a lot of the things that our students say year in and year out. And I actually had an email literally today from a man who's just passed his dissertation. And he just said, and his exact words were, "I can't believe I've got an MSc. I never thought I'd ever have a degree." And that is such a lovely thing to hear. And he said, "This is going to change my life." And I can remember Alan Gillies saying, "I did this, so I could have done what Fiona's doing, because I did this master's myself, and I completed it back in 2008." And I can remember John and Alan saying, "Our aim with this is to change people's lives." And I think it has. I think it certainly changed my life. It changes a lot of people's lives. If nothing else, what Fiona said gives you that confidence. It really does give you that confidence that you can do this, that you actually know what you're talking about, which is so important. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you so much, Fiona. Jane, can you take me under your wing? I feel very reassured, with any endeavor in the digital health sphere, that you would look after me. And thank you again, Fiona, for sharing, the low point of your course. I think it's not unusual, and people don't like to talk about it, about things they struggle with, but it just goes to show the immense support that you had, and that you managed to get through it alongside full-time job and all your other kind of life commitments. So well done again for getting through that, because I'm sure I would get stumped looking at some of those things like medical statistics. I did a bit of it at medical school, but that's as far as it goes.
Sort of get used to it. I mean, I always say, I think perhaps the unique selling point now is that I actually did this MSc whilst I was working full-time. I was a single mum because my husband was working abroad. And I really do, I say to all students, I really do know what it's like. I really do know what it's like. And I actually held the award at UCLan for being the person who'd handed their dissertation in at the last possible moment. 20 past 4 on the last possible day I could ever have handed it in.
There we go.
So, I know what it takes, and I know what it's like. And certainly every single one of us, as Fiona said, we will get back the same day. It's what we do, because we know when students are working on something, they don't want to have to wait 5 days for a reply. They want it now. Yeah. So that's what we always try and do. Good.
And Fiona, a quick question for you. I know there's a few optional modules. Which ones did you end up choosing in the end?
Now you're asking. So I did the qualitative and quantitative research module. I did the one to develop an application, the main core one on EPR and data and coding. obviously the dissertation was an entire year's worth of modules. So yeah, I did quite a selection actually across the board. Yeah.
Okay. And prior to you know, your qualification, did you do any kind of courses in digital health or health informatics that you could transfer over?
No, I didn't. I was completely fresh into. So although I've been within the digital healthcare sphere, so I first moved into digital when we did our electronic medications back in 2013. I still worked as a nurse right through, well, I still am a nurse now, obviously, but I worked clinically on the wards right through till 2017-18. So actually, I started the course in 2020. So I had a couple of years working mostly in digital, still doing a bit of clinical at that time. So no, I didn't come in with any other courses under my belt from a digital perspective. I was very fresh into it. So as I said, the postgraduate skills one was a really helpful one to start everyone off with, because there was a lot that had changed since my first degree in like 1999. So
yeah, I know. And the reason why I wanted to ask that question is because Jane mentioned about you know, students having previous experience and actually using that as part of their accreditation of prior learning. I don't know why I struggled with that word. And I thought that was a very, very unique kind of aspect of their course. So any work that you've done before may not go, you know, may not be wasted. It could actually contribute towards your certification or qualification. And I think that's actually really handy to have. Good. And Jane, one question, because you mentioned about the tech skills and standards. When I was reading on the website, it referred to the Health Informatics National Occupational Standards and the Key Skills Framework. Is that the same thing, or is it related?
No, not at all. And that actually goes back. If you were to look at the website in 4 weeks' time, it's going to look totally different.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. And remind me, when is the deadline for applications?
We could be really flexible because it's distance delivery. You know, honestly, if somebody, technically for the university, it's something like the 3rd week in June. But for us, because there are no visas to worry about, there's no getting to campus, there's none of that. So we can actually start somebody. They could probably apply 1st week in September and start at the end of September.
There we go. So what I'm hearing is there's a lot of flexibility and support with your course.
Yes, that's always what we've tried to do. Yes.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to bring the webinar to an end. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host and actually hearing the different aspects of the Digital Health Leadership Programme at Imperial College London, and also the Health Informatics course at UCLan. I was going to say UCLan, I was like UCLan. Did you guys have any final comments, any final reflections of what you've heard today?
No, I think this whole series is absolutely fascinating because there are so many different courses that are available.
So many.
Many, depending on where people are, where they want to get to, and it's a minefield. It's an absolute, because we know digital health and health informatics is huge. It's absolutely huge. We need to be aware there isn't a one size fits all.
Totally. I completely agree. Like I can see value in every single course that is being presented. And it really just depends on the individual, what their goals are, what they're trying to achieve, and what they're trying to learn.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate it.
I'd now like to take over and say thank you to Anita. I think you have chaired that superbly, Anita. Particular thanks to Juliet and to Jane for providing their presentations about the courses, and to Penny and Fiona to come and tell us just what it's like being a student on the courses. You've all been very generous with your time. Thank you very much for contributing, and thank you for joining us. I think those watching this video are going to be, they're going to benefit from understanding in a better way exactly what you have to offer for them. So thank you. And with that, I'm going to close this meeting. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.